Hey everyone, I wanted to come in here today. I've been giving a lot of thought to this moral distress and moral injury. It kind of was started back a few months ago where there was a video on YouTube and it was shared pretty widely by a doctor out of the US talking about moral injury and the impact that it has on nurses and other healthcare workers. And it's really, it struck me because I had never had a label to give the experience that I had, and it's just really carried with me, and it's had me really digging into it to give it some good understanding and to see how it links with burnout. Now, this video that was out there on YouTube, he was saying, like, stop calling it burnout. This is, it's like victim shaming. It's saying, like, you're not good enough to get through this, to handle this job. You're not resilient enough to make it through, to be able to tolerate all of this toxic, abusive work situation. And so, I totally agree with him. However, burnout is real too. So we can't dismiss that. But I really have been thinking about how the two tie together. And my own personal situation, honestly, when I read through some of the comments in the most recent question I posed about, have you ever been in a situation in nursing where you've done something or you've been forced to do something or ordered to do something that didn't feel right, that felt ethically misaligned for you, and yet you did it because you were told, and what that did to you, like how that impacted you, how that impacts your heart. That's moral distress, that's moral injury. And, I was reading through some of the comments and if you haven't seen it, go back and read through and comment if you've ever experienced something like that, because most of us have in some way, shape, or form. Anyways, I was reflecting on my own experience and found myself comparing, like, wow, mine wasn't really that bad. I didn't have to, resuscitate somebody who had already explicitly expressed a DNR, but because it wasn't written on paper, we didn't follow it. That was not my experience. Mine was to the extent of that I had developed a program, which was a very, a mainstay of what I did in the latter years of my traditional nursing career. And I developed this really robust program, and when I went on mat leave, they cut it all, and because of funding and all, the other bullshit reasons that they always use. And I was so upset at that point that because I knew that we should be doing more for these people. I knew in my heart of hearts, in my soul, that we could be serving and helping people in such a better way, and they just didn't want to let us. And I was just talking with a client on a call, and we were talking about the very similar thing, and how that, when we have our voices shut down, when we're told that your opinion doesn't matter, just do as you're told, it is what it is, just, suck it up, bend over and take the whips even if it doesn't feel good, like, just do it anyways, don't say anything, don't buck the system. When you exist in a culture that has that kind of abusive narrative, it creates moral distress, because you're put in situations constantly where you are caring for people. Sometimes it's particular situations where we're actually doing something that seems and feels very ethically wrong, but sometimes it's every day. Sometimes we're in a workplace or a work environment where we are doing things every day that don't feel like they're enough. I feel like we are just barely touching the real issue, the real situation, and then we're sending people away. And that is what was happening for me. That was my moral distress, moral injury, was knowing that I could be doing more for these people if I was just allowed the time, if I was given the opportunity to really sit with these people and to get to know them and to build relationship and trust and help them work through some of these deeper problems, these deeper issues, to create lasting change. And I was not allowed to. They just kept cutting and axing things every which way. And when I went back to work, I was really hesitant, and I everything in me was like, I shouldn't be going back. I left my regular job and stayed on as casual. And I went back for a shift, and I was in a room with a physician and a patient and another nurse. And this doctor was just completely dismissing what the patient was saying. He just didn't want to listen to him. He was just trying to ask questions to understand All the doctor wanted to talk about was the medical tests and the medications, and then to get the heck out of that room. And I felt everything inside of me was like full-blown panic attack. And I walked out of that room shaking and just like, I can't be here. This is so wrong on so many levels. And the deepest parts of me said, if I continue to do this, I am going to be denying myself what's right. And so, I mean, I was already on the path of pursuing coaching. And so this is, it's allowed me to serve people in the way that I believe is the most beneficial to them. And so, I'm more than honored. I am more than grateful for the role that I play. But I'm super also curious about how moral distress shows up for you in nursing, because it's inevitable. I think all of us in healthcare are going to face some kind of morally distressing situation. Sometimes, like I said, it's those particular things that are really, pushing us or forcing us to do something that feels wrong. But sometimes we're showing up to it every day where the work we're doing just feels like we're barely skimming the surface of really helping people. And that is morally distressing because we feel so deeply that we could be doing more. And so I'm curious of people's experience with this. And, I've been turned on to a study that's going on in the U.S. that I'm going to share with you guys later this week, hopefully, where you can share some of your stories on moral distress and moral injury. And I also wanted to say that one of the pieces that I have discovered is like the cure or the way to combat moral distress is courage and honesty. Courage meaning we need to bravely speak up, even if people are not listening, even if, we risk getting a target on our back, even if we risk reprisals from other staff or management. If we don't stand up and say something, then this shit's going to continue. It's never going to stop if we are continuing to be the kind of people who just put our heads down and let it go on. And I know often it's not heard, but we have to bravely step up and say something about the problems that are going on. And, number 2 is the honesty, right? Is that we have to be truthful about what is happening in nursing. And I also think it has to tie back to now more than ever, it is so important for us to be doing the deep inner work on ourselves, because we are looking at a system that is falling apart. I think every single one of you sees it. I talk with nurses from all over Canada and the US, and we're all seeing it. Just the little parts of our pockets where we're connected in the healthcare system that are falling apart. There's no staff to work because of the significant mental and emotional and psychological and PTSD injuries that are going on. The system is crumbling around us, and whatever that means, now is such an important time for us to be looking at ourselves. Because if there's a fight ahead, which there is, how are we ever going to be able to engage in that, or to stand up and use our voice and to be firm about what is right and what's not okay, if we are not doing the work on ourselves to feel confident to do that? And so this really fuels me in a way of, not that I can teach you to have courage, and not that I can teach you resilience, because these are natural qualities that every one of us have. But what happens over our lifetime is that, and especially in healthcare, in nursing, is that it gets buried, it gets pushed down, and we become, much more guided by this belief that we are not good enough, that we're failures, that no one wants to hear us, that our opinion doesn't matter, that we're not valuable, we're not important, all of those things. And so we don't. And so the program that I have developed and that I run is a program for nurses, not to teach you these things, but to help you gain awareness of how these things are showing up in your life, and about the beliefs that you have developed and the expectations that you hold over yourselves, and how those create such a toxic internal culture for yourself, and a toxic chaos inside of you that never feels like it's enough. That is not fuel to fight. That is not fuel to stand up bravely with your voice. That is how they shut people down. And so in the Nurse RX program, there's so much that happens, but a big part of it is gaining awareness of what patterns we hold and how they are showing up in our life, and then thinking about how can we start to flip that switch? How can we start to shift these patterns in a direction that is going to serve us, that is going to serve the greater good, maybe the culture of nursing, our family, the big system as a whole, because the ripple spreads when each of us focuses inward, when each of us starts to peel back the layers to see what's been hidden all these years, what we have been conditioned to believe about ourselves. When we start to peel that back and step out into a whole new space of strength and power and resilience that we have held our entire lives. But when we start to, re-step back into it, that's when, we start to see these shifts at a much higher level. So I literally could ramble on, and I do. So nonetheless, I'm on here today because I really am curious about your experience with moral injury and moral distress. So share in the comments what yours has been, or what resonates with you in this video. And if you haven't yet watched the nursing burnout video that we did a week ago, you can go to my website, and I'll put the link here in the comments, and you can download it. If you have any questions about the program, please know that I'm a wide open door. You can ask me anything at any time. Here for you all. Let's stand together. Let's stand strong. We can make it through this. I believe that in my heart of hearts. Have a good day.